Okay, so today I wanted to talk to everybody here about building and leading a voluntary army. What do I mean by voluntary army? When you're in corporate America and you're the boss and you're the leader, guess what? You get to tell people to do things and they have to do their job. They have to listen to you. But what about creating a team of independent contractors, independent associates that don't have to listen to you from Adam? So how do you get people to listen to you, to follow along with you? How do you build a voluntary team and a voluntary army, a large one, not just a small crew? I'm talking, you get to $1,000 a day in the business. You know, you're earning $30,000 a month or more. You're earning 7 figures a year, like Darnell Self is. So how do we get there? And I was listening to a great podcast by Pastor Robert Furrow, and he talks about the inversion principle. The inversion principle, where everything in the kingdom is upside down. Or in our industry, everything in leading a voluntary army and a voluntary team is opposite of corporate America. So you ready? Here we go, okay? The first principle is, in order to be first, you must be willing to be last. In order to be exalted and to be the big leader, you must first be willing to be the last one in line, the last one to eat, the last one to sit down. In fact, many of the team meals that I provide and during convention, and a lot of the times I'm not even sitting. I am standing because I want to make sure that every single person gets a seat, and I actually don't eat until everyone's got a chance to eat, because we had a buffet. We had a team lunch in Charlotte, North Carolina. We had 100 people on the team that were there, and it was a buffet. So I wanted to make sure everyone ate and there was enough food, and I didn't want to take food from somebody else's mouth. So in order to be first, we must be willing to be last. And you're like, that doesn't, I mean, how can I be important then if I'm the last one? Well, everything again is the inversion principle. It's opposite. And Jesus actually gives a new definition to all that. In the book of Luke, chapter 14, he talks about taking the last seat at the table. He says, when people invite you over for dinner, don't go take the head of the table because you're the guest of honor. You wait until everybody sits down, and then you take the last seats. And wait for them to say, oh, no, you're the guest of honor. You sit here, right? You sit at the head of the table. Wait for them to promote you. You don't tell them how great you are. You do your thing. You honor other people and let them promote you and say how great of a job that you're doing. So the second principle is that we don't want to lord over people. We don't want to be the rules person. That's right. Leaders eat last. That's very good. One of the best books by Simon Sinek. When it comes to not lording over people, the other word for that is control. Okay, control. The day I gave up control in this business of other people, trying to control people and trying to control the way they do it, the way they say it, the way they act about it, the way they, the day I stopped trying to control people is the day the business grew out of control in a great way. I was, when I was trying to control people and trying to constantly critique them and correct them on, trying to fit into this little box that I wanted to fit in because they were perfect and they weren't embarrassing that way. And they were, the day that I stopped doing that was the day that they grew into the leader. They bloomed and blossomed to be greater leaders than I will ever be. And you're thinking, well, I'm supposed to be the leader. I can't have anybody pass me up. No, in this business, you want 4 leaders that pass you up. You want 4 leaders that are better than you. And see, in corporate America, we're trained to keep people down, not have people, not to rise people up, because they'll take your job and then you're out of a job. But here in this business, our job is to make other people greater than we ever will be, and to not feel insecure about that. Secure leaders rise up other leaders. Insecure leaders try to control, manipulate, and not promote the people that they're leading. So again, the inversion principle, completely opposite of everything we've been taught in school and in corporate America and in all that. So we're talking about being a servant. The third principle is learn how to become a servant. Learn how to serve your people. What does it mean to serve people? Well, it can mean many different ways. In John chapter 13, Jesus washes his disciples' feet. And Peter is like, no, Lord, do not wash my feet. You're like the God, you're the man. You can't wash my feet, you're the guy. And Jesus said, in order for you to follow me and for us to be connected and for us to have a relationship, in order for you to want to follow me, I must serve you first. What are ways that we can serve the team? Let's think about this. So it might mean serving them food. It might mean literally serving them food. But like Valerie, yep, pick up the phone, make a call, serve them with your time. Serve them with your emotional energy. Give them of your attention, right? Who can you connect with today and listen to and just be a good friend? Guess what? Even if you have a friend that doesn't support you in this business, if you learn to be a good friend to anybody and everybody, regardless of whether they support you or positive, negative about your business, guess what? They'll eventually going to love you and eventually come to respect what you do because of your relationship with them, that they'll eventually support you anyway. But that's not why we do it. We don't give to get. We give without expecting anything in return, and we serve. We give resources. If you read a great book and you've got the budget to buy one for the leaders on your team, do it, send it to them. In fact, Amazon's great because if you have Amazon Prime, it's free shipping. You could get books on sale. You can shop the prices for the best price and you can share and send them gifts, right? Send books to your top 5 leaders. Say, this book changed my life. I hope it changes yours. You don't have to say, I want you to read this to do better in your Legal Shield business. No, you represent Legal Shield. Okay, you don't even need to say Legal Shield. You just say, this gift changed my life. I hope it changes yours. And so you could serve people with your time. You could serve people with your money, your resources in that way. And you could serve them. There's something called the 5 love languages. Have you ever heard of that? Right? Everyone put in the chat. If you've read the 5 love languages, what is your love language? Let's just take a minute to see here. I know that my love language, while we're waiting for people to put your love language, Jim says gifts or acts of service. Yep, that's actually my love language. Help. So Dave's like, what do you want for Valentine's Day? What do you want for your birthday? I just want you to do the dishes, honey. I just want you to help me. Help me, somebody. Acts of service for Lou too. All right. Torin, acts of service. Okay, we all here on the line, we like getting help, right? That's our love language. For some people, it's words of affirmation. For some people, it's physical touch. And in the workplace, that means just hand on the shoulder, great job. Okay, nothing more. And, or, fist bump, elbow bump, high five, right? Hug, okay, in the workplace. So there's several different love languages, and I think there's even a book called The Love Languages in the Workplace. If not, we need to invent one. Is there? Okay, yeah. The 5 love languages in the workplace. We need to read that. That's a way to serve people, is speaking their love language. And so let's talk about acts of service. How can you help someone on your team, lighten their load? Maybe they've got a full-time job and but you're available during the day and they're stuck in the office. Well, maybe you can help them onboard one of their new people. They just did all the work to try and bring on somebody new, and they don't have the time to properly onboard that member or associate. You can say, hey, is it okay? I'm available. I know you're busy. I could do their game plan. Just schedule me the time, right? I'm here. I'm ready, right? Take the workload from them. That's another way to serve them. And people say, I don't want to spend a lot of time with any one person because I've had people quit on me. Well, I promise you, I've had more people quit on me than they've quit on you because the person earning the biggest check, Brian Carruthers, has more zeros on his genealogy than we do. So, but it's better to have loved than lost than never to have loved at all. And it's better to have served and developed someone to the point of where they got than not have developed them at all. Because there will be people that you develop in this business to be great leaders, but they don't use their gifts that you taught them and develop them to be here. They end up using them somewhere else. I've had my heart broken of developing great leaders, and then they go and become a coach, a business coach. I've had people that have gone on to go to another company in the industry, the competition. I've had people go on, but you know what? Fantastic. You help somebody, you touch their life, you change them, you empower them. You played that part in their life. Okay. So what's another inversion principle that we do here when it comes to leading a voluntary army? We must learn to humble ourselves. We have to humble ourselves. In Matthew chapter 23, it says, if you exalt yourself, God will humble you. But if you humble yourself, God will exalt you. So you don't need to tell everybody how great you are. We need to spend time telling other people how great they are. And the more you can speak words of life and encouragement into other people, guess what? They'll never leave your side. They might end up doing other vocations and other forms of business, but they will always want to take your phone call. When they see a text message from you, it will make them smile instead of make them run. There's two types of leaders. There's two types of people. The types of people that just like, oh my gosh, that was such a negative interaction. I cannot stand to take more than 2 minutes of a phone call with that person. Oh my gosh, because they're a drainer, energy drainer. You know what I'm talking about? Who has people like that in their lives where it's all complaining and negative? Or if it's not a drainer, it's like a negative, a critical person that's just like, you're doing this wrong, you're this, you're that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't need that. I had enough bad things happening going on. I couldn't take it, right? Versus, or are you a lifter? Someone that's positive. Who are those people in your life? There's people that are always smiling, they're happy, and even if they're going through a bad thing, they'll still have nice things to say. Well, that's the person who you're not going to send a voicemail when you see them calling. That's the person when you're like, yeah, I like being around that person. I like listening to them. And so learning to be humble, it's also much more refreshing to listen to a humble person speak than it is to listen to someone who spends 5 to 10 minutes telling you how great and amazing that they are. Would you agree? Ladies, have you been on dates before? And I've been on lots of dates before, Dave, where they spent the whole time telling me how awesome they were, how great they were. Yet they didn't ask any questions about me to want to get to know me. And then here comes along Dave, and Dave must have read How to Win Friends and Influence People because he spent the whole first date asking me questions about me. But then, of course, I've been trained in this business to ask questions about other people. So he's asking me questions about me, and I'm putting it right back at him and asking questions about him. And maybe that's why we got engaged in 2 months and got married in 4 months. Boom, right? So that's how it's done. That's how it's done. Show more interest in the other person. Of course, it was my first celibate dating relationship as well. So that's a very personal, but it got him to seal the deal, the ring and the date right away. ladies, if that's what you're looking for. Anyway, so we don't want to be promoting ourselves. Proverbs 27 says, do not let your lips praise you. And Philippians chapter 2 says, let nothing be done through selfish ambition. But instead, we have to be like childlike in awe in everything that we do. Wow, we're constantly willing to learn. Okay, the inversion principle, the opposite in this business, we must be willing to be humbled, and we must be willing to even learn from the people that we're teaching. Every person you meet, every new associate that comes on your team has something to teach you. And you know when it's happening when you don't feel comfortable because someone on your team is trying to tell you something and you don't like how it feels because you're like, wait, but I'm the leader. You're not supposed to be teaching me. You're not supposed to be telling me how to run things. Okay, but they're teaching you and it's going to feel uncomfortable. And I want you to welcome that their suggestions with open arms, because that's how we're going to get better. We always want to be a student. We always want to be willing how to get better. I love what Brian Carruthers shared at the National Convention in Charlotte, how he shared from his heart, how he's going through his own personal growth right now and learning how to be a better husband, a better father, and a better leader, and learning new principles. And so we always want to be constantly growing in order to get to the next level, because you're either growing or you're dying. You're either growing, you're green, you're getting greener, or you're getting rotten fruit, right? We don't want to become rotten. So these are the ways to build a voluntary army. These are the ways. Now, in our business, it's a numbers game. That is also about being in building a voluntary team, because if you're in a traditional job setting, you put out resumes, you hire people, you put out a salary, and then that's it. And then that's it. But in our business, we're constantly recruiting because everybody is part-time and they're volunteering, whether they're going to work today, this week, this month, or this year or not. It's up to them. And so we always want to be recruiting. But in this business, we're accumulating a book of customers that eventually pays a residual income. And we're accumulating a team that eventually pays a passive income. In the meantime, now I know it's hard when you're new to not focus on the money, okay? But if you are focused on the activity and putting your head down and being obedient and doing what we should be doing every day, which is what? Sharing the good news with 2 new people a day. That's right, making 2 new exposures a day. Does everybody know what our job assignment is, right? We just share this business with 2 new people a day. And that's how we earned over $1 million. Just sharing it consistently, being consistent, being in a numbers game. And yes, spending and investing in our time with each person as if they're the only one, and loving everyone, but waiting for no one. Wait for no one, because Brian Carruthers says, we are recruiting our replacement for the person that you just brought on, because we don't know what they're going to do, or even if they do a lot now, they might end up, doing a little bit later. So we are constantly, but I did want to end with one last point, and that is call them in good times and also in bad. Don't just call someone when they're on fire and they're doing great and they're selling a lot and they're showing up all the time and they're being core. Do you know that the time that they're really needing us to call them and give them the lifeline is when they're having a bad time, when they're going through a dry season? That's like, people are like, oh, but this person's not doing anything, so I shouldn't pay attention to them. If they knew how to do it, they would be doing it. If they knew how to produce, they would be producing more. If they knew where to find the people, they would be finding more. Don't just call them in good times, but call them in bad times too, because that's when they need you the most. All right, let's go to breakout rooms and let's do some exercising here.